C, C, CQ.
Hello and welcome back to CQ, the AWS Certification quiz show, where I'm here in a slightly different format that we might just be trialing this week with my very good friend, Derek, joining me from Perth. Finally, welcome, Derek. Tell the viewers a bit about a journey I like to think that we've kind of been on together for a wee while, but more about you.
Hey, buddy. Yes. Hi, my name's Derek, and this is a very exciting moment in my career in AWS. I finally made it into the CQ show. Yes. For those of you who haven't met before, I am a developer advocate at AWS, looking after Australia and New Zealand. I've been at AWS for coming up on 3 years now, and I've
So a little bit
recently moved.
behind me.
Yeah. Just well, you're a veteran. Yeah, been here for 3 years, and I've just moved into the developer advocate role. So I'm excited about that, but I'm more excited about being on this show, MJ. So yeah, before before I was a developer advocate, I was a solutions architect. So it was a natural transition, and it was great that AWS would support such transitions of roles. So exciting times for me. How are
It
you?
is indeed. I was really excited when I saw your move, which you didn't tell me about, Deebing, but super excited, and and I do think it's such a natural move. I am very very confused as to why you are so excited, though. I think you're potentially the most excited guest we've ever had on CQ. What is going on, Deebing? Tell us why.
Yeah. Well, a little story. So I'm based over in Perth, and in Perth, MJ, we have a little initiative that we've kicked off called Cloud U. So Cloud U is what we run in the community to try and get people certified on AWS Associate Solutions Architect exam. So it's a
Well
12-week
done, you got it
course.
right.
Yes, I know. Words are hard. It's early. It's 8 o'clock in the morning.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
you're way behind as well.
yeah, so yeah, the course itself is over 12 weeks. It's a community-driven course, so we like to keep all the people who are on it in communication with each other using Slack. And
Okay.
as part of this course, we have like a exam readiness workshop that we run before people sit the exam. And I have based the exam readiness workshop on CQ show. So
No way.
yes, this is so awesome. So I run through my really poor imitation of yourself in reading the questions.
What?
And
We could be twins, Steving. Look at us together.
yeah, I know, separated at birth. Uh, so I run through the questions, and it's been a very successful course. We had a lot of people graduate from last term's intake, and then we're running one at the minute right now across Perth and Adelaide. So I'm very, very, very excited to be in the real thing for a change rather than having my poor imitation.
Well, congratulations to the cohort and to the newest cohort as well. I can't wait to see how this second round goes. So, Cloud U, there we go. Congratulations, Steving. What about something cool that you're working on right now? Let's share with our viewers today.
Well, I won't tell a lie. I have a very cool job. So developer advocate. The role
It's an odd
itself.
title. Tell us more.
Yeah. So a lot of people may have known the title as developer evangelist or technical evangelist, but in a nutshell, I'm in the same org as a Jeff Barr or one of that evangelism org, but really focused on advocating for developers. So
Awesome.
connecting with developers through user groups, through streams like on Twitch or through YouTube channels, and trying to build content. So I'm constantly trying to build content that will connect with developers and help them to be more build better things on the AWS platform and really demonstrate the art of the possible for developers. So it's a very exciting role, and it's like I think I need to pinch myself every now and again to go, oh, I have a
Oh,
cool
Dibing, you're
job.
so lovely. I couldn't think of a better person to be in that role. So again, congratulations on the new role. Congratulations on Cloud U. Are you ready to play CQ?
I am petrified.
I know you're a bit nervous. Don't worry, our viewers will be very, very nice to you, and you can, phone a friend on our poll. So, a quick shout out to Mr. Bob this week, who is joining us from his Raspberry Pi. Pop in the chat where else we've got people joining us from. So today with Dbing, you might have already guessed, we are going through our Developer Associate exam. So we've done a few of these with Gerardo, so you've got big shoes to fill, Mr. Bingham. And this is another one of our associate level exams. All right, so should we jump into question number 1?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go, everyone. First question is on containers, and actually shout out number 2 of the show already, and we're only a couple of minutes in. This question was contributed by one of our regular viewers, Chris Williams. Hey, Chris, if you're watching along this week, who recently attained, get this, all 12 certifications. Well done, Chris. No mean feat, and we'd really like to get more of you sending questions in. This was actually really cool, so thank you very much. One less question for producer John to produce this week. So you ready for this one, Dbing? Starting with containers.
Oh, my favorite.
Good. All right, you have configured an AWS ECS service to use the rolling update deployment type. During deployment, you notice that your site becomes unresponsive during the rollout. Dbing, how can you architect the service to avoid unwanted downtime whilst minimizing the cost of rollouts? Lots to jump into.
Yes, this is a great question to start, and thanks for choosing this first up.
We don't normally start with a tricky one, so I'm loving this.
Sweat. So right, how do I start this? So when I'm doing my exam readiness prep, my CQ wannabe, I always go read the question, understand what it's trying to ask you. So in this particular question, where are we going? We're going into containers. We need to think about and regurgitate our thoughts and our memories of what we've learned through our studies on containers. So what we know about containers on AWS, we know that there's fundamentally 2 types of container services. We've got ECS, which the question is on here, and we have EKS, which Aziz mentioned in one of the answers. So ECS is the elastic container.
I was going to ask exactly what you're about to answer. Keep going.
It's ECS is our elastic container service. So when I talk to customers, it's all about this is our entry point into containers on AWS, and EKS is our elastic Kubernetes service, and it's where we run Kubernetes workloads on AWS. So they're fundamentally different. And then we have underpinning both, we have the actual runtime of those services. So we can run them on EC2, or we can run them in a serverless context that we call Fargate. So that's I'm just thinking about what I know about containers to help answer the question.
Nice. Good tip.
Thank you. The other part of the question is mentioning rollouts, so rolling deployments. So obviously, when we need to build and deploy software onto our container service, we need to think about how we're going to do updates to our application. And we have 2 distinct concepts when we talk about adding new application versions. We have what's called a blue-green deployment, which is where when we have a new application, we can spin up the servers that are also running the new version of our application beside the ones that are running our old one. So that's our blue-green. And then
we have a few people on the line going for, but great comment from Mega Rotodo on the overhead of blue-green.
Excellent, yes. And then we have the other one, which is Canary, which is one of the best names for a practice in software development. So Canary is the Canary deployments the name itself comes from a mining context, where you would go down a mine with a canary in a cage, and if that canary died, i.e., fell over or fell over, then the miners would go, "Oh, there's gas in this mine.
Too dangerous.
I better get out of here." So that's where the context bit gruesome, but that's where canary
Thanks for
deployments
that.
come from. You only realize it's gruesome when you talk about it. It's funny. So yeah, so canary deployments are around the same thought patterns, where you deploy the new version of your application, but in not as many servers or tasks or instances that your main
Okay.
application is running on, and then you using traffic routing, you route 10% of the traffic, say as an example, to the canary, the new version application, and if that runs well, then you slowly ramp up that canary, and that becomes your new version of the application. So that
Okay.
are the two deployment types that we talk about when we talk about rolling deployments. So that's
Okay.
containers, and that's rolling deployments, which is really what the question is trying to get to. At the answers that are there, we have answer 1, which is update the cluster type to EKS. So those of us who have sat AWS exams or are fans of the show, like me, you'll know that there's always one answer that's like, what?
And then this one.
Pulling my chin. So yeah, that would be answer 1. So this is going.
Right.
I think this is trying to capture all the EKS fanboys and girls out there, and to who will automatically go, "Oh, EKS, that's cool. That must be the answer." This is definitely not the answer. Changing the cluster type to EKS is I can just right away.
Get rid of it.
Yep, it's gone. Gone. It's not an
What
answer.
about number 2? We have a few people on the chat deeping going for number 2.
Yes, so number 2 is it could be number 2. So if we talk about number 2, it's trying to go, okay, let's set the minimum healthy percentage value to 100% and the maximum percent to 200%. So what the minimum healthy percent is actually doing and the maximum percent is actually defining the boundaries for that blue-green setup. So what you're saying is, of my application, I want 100% of the tasks that are in my application to be running, and the maximum number of tasks running application I want is 200. So if you can visualize that, you've got your application 100%, but
Yep.
a scope of 200%. So that's your side-by-side application to serve that blue-green deployment. So that's actually a good answer, but as we know, there may be a better answer. So I'll just go to number 3, and we'll talk about that. Well, 2 could be an answer. So number 3 is use blue-green deployment type with the deployment configuration of ECS deploy default, ECS linear 10% every 1 minute.
I'm glad I didn't have to read the answers out for you.
So yeah, no, we look at the grammar. The grammar is interesting every 1 minute, but apart from that, actually know that this is a setting that we can apply. So what this is doing is this is cycling over linearly from one app to the other instance every 10% of the traffic every 1 minute. So again, this is satisfying our rolling deployment as blue-green. It's very similar to 2. The difference is here that with the answers question 2, we're going boom side by side, one version, other version, and then switch. With this one, we're actually linearly increasing it. So over time, it'll take about 10 minutes to cycle into our new application version. So it'll be a little bit slower than the question 2. So by inference, then that will be a little bit more expensive. So if I was to choose, back to the question, minimizing the cost of the
Minimizing
role.
cost. Yep. I was wondering when you get to that. Perfect.
I'm getting there. So yeah, so I'm already starting to order my questions, the answers. So I'm still preferring 2 over 3, and then we'll get on to 4 next, which is update the ECS agent configuration value to ECS deployment rollup type to 1 at a time. So I know 1 at a time. When you use 1 at a time is not necessarily in a rolling deployment scenario. 1 at a time is actually a value that you give to our code deploy service. So it's related. So if the viewers don't know what code deploy is, we have a bunch of services that automate build and deployment for applications, and the orchestrator for that is called code pipeline. And then we have code commit, where you store your source code, code build that builds the source code, and then code deploy, which finally deploys your application packages onto ECS, as an example. So that 1 at a time value is actually a value for code deploy, not for ECS. So it's saying to code deploy, I want to deploy my application 1 at a time, in instances 1 at a time, or tasks 1 at a time. So that is actually a trick answer. It's trying to
a distractor is the official term.
It's a distractor. So Chris who created the questions. This is an evil. That one was an evil one. So thanks. So yeah. So it comes down to in thinking about question 2 and question 3. Question 2 is slightly the better one because of the cost argument, and so I'm going to lock in answer 2. MJ.
Going against the crowd on his first answer of CQ, let's reveal answer number 1. Yay, well done, D-Bing. Oh, I think you were genuinely nervous there by the looks on your face. But we've eased you in with Mr. Williams' quite difficult question. Let's try number 2, see which way we're going. Harder or easier? Security, why not? Of course. Here we go. So D-Bing, an application running on an Amazon EC2 instance needs to call an AWS service in a different AWS account. How can the application obtain credentials to this other account?
Okay.
And breathe.
Computers. And let's talk about EC2 and security. You're doing this on purpose. So right, let's focus again back on the question. What we're trying to achieve with the question. So the question is talking about EC2s, which we all know about, the underlying compute service of AWS. But it's talking about how we can get access from that EC2 instance into a different account, which is an interesting scenario because we have the well-architected framework. So there's a well-architected framework that we've published that says, and one of its best practices is that to reduce blast radiuses of applications, every application should be in a different account, and also you should segregate accounts if you're doing a dev environment, a prod environment, or a test environment. So the actual act of going cross account is sort of goes against that best practice. But there are use cases that we have that are actually necessitate the ability to go and call a service cross account. The one that springs to mind is what's known as a SIEM. So that is a security information and event management system. So if I had an application or applications in my organization, I would want them to log any incidents to a single place that would then the security team could look at. So that's where typically we could go and reach across account. So that's why we'd want to go cross account. So if we look at the answers, so we've got the first one. Okay. So we're looking to obtain credentials. So when we're obtaining credentials, we want to have the smallest the principle of least privilege. So the credentials we retrieve, we want them to be able to do just the thing that we want to do, and
Yep.
typically we want them to be short-term credentials as well. So we don't want to be storing credentials. We want just to use them as we need them. So with that in mind, we look at answer 1, which is change the IAM instance profile on the EC2 instance. So
I think we've had one
right.
person go for this answer.
So a little bit, maybe let's talk about the IAM instance profile that sits on the EC2 instance. So it's really a container that stores the IAM role that you use to pass role information to EC2 when the instance actually starts. So you can't. I don't think you can attach a cross-account IAM role to the EC2 instance directly. And even if you, so there is an assume role permission, but I don't think that you can, that actually comes into operation. I'm really
I can hear producer John agreeing with you to the right of me, if that helps.
Yeah. Well, if John knows, then I'm a lot more confident about this not being the right answer. So thanks, John. Love your work.
What about number 2? We got most people going with number 2, Bing.
Yeah, so that's a decent answer. So the assumed role is the mechanism that we use to retrieve temporary credentials for a role provided. So when I have tried to being the operative word, get across the role, I've always used assume role because it's nice, it's self-contained, and it gives you those temporary credentials, so it reduces your blast radius.
And that's a feature of STS, right? Security Token Service.
Yep. It is. So this is the command on STS. Very good. So assume role at the minute is so that's a really good answer, and I'll go on to 3. So next one is run AWS configure and enter the new credentials. So I'm just looking at the 4th one as well. You know, we talk about it's not true. We could be on to 2 here that are just completely bunkers. So the 3rd one is run AWS
Tip of the
configure.
week, getting rid of bonkers answers.
Don't spend time on bunkers. So yeah. So you can run AWS configure. So AWS configure is how you set up the AWS CLI. For those of you who haven't done it, so it's not really related to what we're talking about. You could log into if you were completely bonkers, you could log into the EC2. Use the AWS configure CLI command, but that wouldn't actually do much in terms of your application.
Cool.
So I would just put that in the bunkers bucket. And then number 4, log out of the existing AWS account and log into another account. Yes. That's the most interesting answer I've seen for a while. I have no idea how that would work and how no. Yeah, if you want to, log in and log out of stuff for fun, that would be a great answer. But no, seriously, that's not going to work. So yes,
right.
I would discount that and put it in the bunkers bucket as well. So I'd go lock in 2. 2 is definitely the one I've used, and it's got to be 2.
I think we're all a bit more confident with this answer. Of course, 2 it is. So, Deebing, we've done 2 questions. We're at 27 minutes past the hour. Let's try and fit in this last question, and we might have to speed up a bit. All right, okay. Here we go. Your application is storing data in a DynamoDB table that has a customer ID as the primary key. The application also needs to perform queries on the table by using a phone number attribute. How can the application query items by phone number?
Cool. DynamoDB, love DynamoDB. It's
covered this for you last week. We can move on.
Yes, excellent. Everybody knows about Dynamo. So here we've got a primary key. So it's a partition key that is the customer ID. And so we've got a number of options. We can answer one, use a scan instead of a query. So the difference between a scan and a query is quite focused in trying to get the information that you want, where scan will look through the entire table and do a sort afterwards. So I don't think that's the right answer because we're looking for queries here. It actually says in the answer, in the question. Answer 2, add the phone number as a sort key. So what this is doing is adding it's really a partition key and a sort key can make an index, but adding the phone number as a sort key is not really going to solve our problems. Incidentally enough, if you don't know what I'm talking about in terms of partition keys, sort keys, primary keys, there's a great site that's DynamoDB site written by Rick Houlihan. This has got all the information around DynamoDB. I'll put the link up.
We'll get it put in the chat, DB.
Thanks. And then the number 3 is create a local secondary index. So a local secondary index is a way that you can query the DynamoDB, but there's certain constraints you can have on an LSI or local secondary index, and that is that you can't change the partition key, sort key. So it must have the same partition key, different sort key, otherwise it's the same table. So I don't think this is the right answer because we've got our customer ID, but we need to add our different sort key of phone number. So that's why, if I had to do this really quickly, I would go for... It's
all right. We got a minute or so.
I would go for number 4 because what that's doing is with a GSI or global secondary index, I can add a partition key with a different sort key. So I get the partition key's primary key and whatever partition key's primary key, and then we'll add the sort key of phone number, publish that as the GSI or new global secondary index, and I think that is a winning combination.
The global secondary index. Most people, interesting that I don't think you got 100% agreement once today, DB. We'll need to give you more questions next time. We're going with you on your last answer of today. So locking in number 4. Number 4 it is. So out of 3, you got 3, which is wonderful news.
Wow.
Oh, Dee, I'm so glad to finally have had you on CQ. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're actually coming towards the end of the season, so we've only got a few episodes left. So thank you so much for joining us today, DB. We will see you all next time on another episode of CQ. Thank you.